organizations as well as within our customer base. And so I'd like to invite Bentley Wilson, come on down, and join me up here on stage, where we're going to have a little discussion about talent, some of the things that we're looking to do as CPaaSAA along these lines to help our members work on some of these problems. So, Bentley, have a seat.
Thanks, Kevin.
So, let's start with, first of all, it's great to have you here.
Great to be here.
Bentley and I were partners in a venture about 10 years ago working in Kenya. And we're going to talk a little bit about Kenya as we go through this a little bit. But you've spent the last decade plus really working on talent and helping upskilling. You've helped literally tens of thousands of young people in Africa find new meaningful career paths and so forth. So we're excited to have you here and share a little bit about that. But let's start big picture, right? So help us understand the current talent landscape.
Well, today, there's roughly 3.5 billion people in the workforce. But at the same time, there is a silent killer lurking in all of our companies. And it's called the skills and talent gap. Today, 60% of our workforce doesn't have the skills to do their job in an effective way. By the time it's 2030, it's expected to rise to 90%, especially in industries that involve a tremendous amount of technology. Thus, CPaaS, CCaaS, and so on. This industry is going to only be effective at executing on all these amazing technologies, all these amazing plans, unless you bring your people along at the same time, or unless we bring our people along at the same time. Today, we are in a situation where, because there's not enough talent in the Northern Hemisphere, we have to go to other resources to be able to build that talent, as well as build the talent from within.
Right, because I think what we're seeing, and I think we're already starting to see this inside our industry, is typically the way we're finding talent is poaching it from somebody else in the industry, right? And so from our perspective, that isn't very efficient, where we, 2 years from now, 3 or 4 or 5, 10 of you may be here, but with a different business card. So I think one of the things that we want to do is think about career pathing and putting that there. So what is the intersection that's so important here between talent development and innovation that we need to be considering?
Yeah, I think that it's important to also, before we go there, just to understand the statistics around that point that you just made, is that really the way hiring is done is 70% of the people you get are from other companies. And that's growing to 90% by roughly 2030. So there's got to be a better way. As you know, when you pull from someone else, it's a very expensive hire. So it's a really big problem that is not sustainable for our companies. But to that point about talent and innovation, what's that intersection that needs to be understood and needs to be taken advantage of? So we're in a situation where we have to be able to assess our people's skills, evaluate where their gaps are, and then put them on a pathway to fill those gaps very, very quickly on an ongoing basis. This isn't a one-time thing. It's something that we have to do regularly. So that concept that they, that mantra that they always say, lifelong learning, all that, well, that's a real deal. It's something that we really have to execute on in our companies. And the companies that are doing that effectively are the ones that are winning. You've heard every panel kind of comment around and directly to these points, but it's really something that the effective companies are really doing well. There's not a happenstance that most VC companies that go in and buy companies, one of the first things they do is implement a upskilling program in the company to help them take advantage of those opportunities.
Yeah. That was interesting. Yesterday, Divya talked about an actual KPI, whereas BIX, they needed to upskill 100 people inside their CPaaS team. So I don't know what best practices are out there in the audience today, but I thought that was a really good one on actually having KPIs on how you're going to keep your team involved and engaged. Last year, for those that were here, heard us announce a project here at the CPaaS Acceleration Alliance where we wanted to make an impact. And one of the motivations behind that was to help bridge this gap, right? Where we know that our members are going to need more talent. We know definitely your customers are going to need more talent. And we also know, you mentioned just very briefly, this the fact that most of the jobs are in the Northern Hemisphere, where we have a lot of really strong talent in the Southern Hemisphere. And so to help solve the problem as well as make an impact, we launched the CPaaSAA Talent Impact Fund last year at this event. And we're pleased to announce that we have our first cohort that'll be going through that, sponsored and helped from Thrivin, as well as one of our advisory companies, Creo Solutions. Give us a little update on this cohort they'll be starting their training here in about 30, 45 days, I believe.
Yeah, that's the plan. One of the things that's kind of exciting is we found a great vertical that is really happening live as we speak at this moment. You've got the BPO industry that obviously is serviced by this, great group of people and their companies, and it is an industry that we see, and some of you might be surprised by this, but it's an industry that is going to grow from $250 billion to approximately $450 billion by the end of 2030. That's the projection. The reason, I think many people thought that it was going to decrease because of Gen AI and everything, all the phones were going to be answered by a robot or a bot. And that probably is going to be the case. But what people haven't been counting on is the fact that because there are not enough people to do the work in the North, that they need a lot more of their work to be outsourced than ever thought before. So that's something that many people haven't thought about. So we have tapped in to that whole movement, and the problem is that there's not enough people to do the work in the Philippines. There are not enough people to do the work in India anymore. But in Africa, there's an untapped talent pool there that is ready and roaring to go, and we have been helping them get placed into companies for the last 10 years, and we know exactly how to help them do that. So there's an opportunity to help this industry grow in a way that they probably didn't realize, but also impact a part of the world in a way that they so desperately need.
Right. So just very quickly, we'll spend a little more time on this tomorrow during our member session, but we have companies that will be donating into the Impact Fund, allowing then Thrivin to go and source these individuals, almost always university graduates, young professionals that are looking for an opportunity. They vet them, we then bring them into the training. Then as we go and place them, we have a placement fee. That fee then comes back into the fund, making this a virtuous solution that is continuous. So we're excited about how we'll be able to do that. We look forward to scaling that here with the members and making an impact there, as well as in your talent pipeline. Given that point, I'd really like to introduce you to one of our newest members of the CPaaSAA team. Ashley, could you come join us quickly here on stage for just a minute? As we've gone through this process, I think a few of you have probably gotten to know Ashley a little bit. You're starting to get some emails from her. But we reached out to Thrivin and wanted to have the opportunity to bring somebody in that works in Nairobi, Kenya. And so Ashley's been with us now for 5 months? Yeah. And so I wanted you to just kind of share your brief experience. You've had the opportunity to work with Thrivin a little bit. You're now working in a very international organization. Tell us just very briefly about that experience.
Yeah, I think it's been, I don't even know if there's a word for it, to be honest, because it's not something that, it's something you wish would happen, you hope would happen, but because of different situations, it's just not happening because of just where we're at, right? You want the opportunity, you want to be able to do it, you know you have the talent to do it, but it's just not there. So having someone like Thrivin come in, step in, give you that platform to get into that space is incredible.
And how has it been working in our crazy organization? We've got 4 people around the world.
Yeah.
You're in a different continent, I'm in a different continent. How does that work, working remotely within this type of an organization?
I think it's been great, honestly. I used to be a morning person, but because of the different time difference, I've had to change that, had to adapt, start later in the day, but it's been really impactful to me because I'm learning about different cultures as well, different ways of approaching things, and yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, well, it's been great having you. You've been a huge help. Anybody that's interacted with her, you can see her. You can feel her lovely smile even if you haven't been able to meet and talk to her in person.
You know, I'd just like to make one comment too. Ashley's a unique person because we didn't really have to put her on an upskilling pathway to get her into this position, which is a rarity. In Kenya, there's about 600,000 people that graduate from tertiary education every year, but only about 20% of them get employed. She was part of that 20%, so she had been working for some time, and we were able to evaluate all the great skills that she had already, achieved, so she could go into this position. But now, to keep her on point where she needs to be for the organization, she's regularly career pathing and upskilling to be that best person she should be for the organization.
Yeah, no, it's been great to have you. So what we've been able to do is by working through and preparing for this impact fund and the opportunity to bring that in, we now have our CPaaSAA community that hopefully most of you now are active in and have your logins and are participating. It's now integrated on the back end with the Thrivin platform. And so we're going to take the experience we've had in putting together this initial impact opportunity and turn it into the CPaaSAA Academy. And so there's going to be an opportunity now with a real CPaaS-related, cloud communications-related focus on creating pathways and programs in partnership with you as members to helpfully bring a little extra oomph to what a training program might be, because we're able to take best practices and experience from all of you and have a broader CPaaS-based platform for that education side. We'll be looking at both go-to-market type positions as well as developer positions. So whether that's an upskill or whether you're looking for new talent out of the platform and out of Kenya or Africa, we would be able to facilitate that as well. So lastly, Bentley, share with us a little bit, because you've got some cool features that I think can be really beneficial. What are some things that our members could look forward to by being able to access the Thrivin platform?
Well, today's upskilling or skills pathing and career pathing and talent supply building can't be the old way that it was done. The L&D leadership, the development process has to be more personalized. It has to be specific to a role. It has to be specific to a person's skills gap. And so we bring in the AI evaluation, the gap analysis, the pathing, and then we don't take into account learning. We basically bring the mindset, the skill sets that are missing, the tools that are missing, and then the real experience where all of that's being applied and tracked, so that you're able to actually see yourself and see your team and see how they're moving along their filling of their gaps or progressing to that next role that you want them to achieve, and that's all done through a platform. So the outcomes that we're looking for is we're obviously looking for people to be more relevant in their roles, to be able to execute on point the way that we need and want them to. The other thing is this concept of engagement and retention. A lot of employers will say, well, what if I train them? They're just going to go somewhere else. But what happens is that actually when people are upskilling or career pathing within their organization, then they're not doing it outside, right? If they're doing it inside, then they're staying. If they're doing it outside, then they're leaving, and that's what happens. And we're obviously in a very dynamic workforce situation, and it's kind of the talent opportunity is huge because so many people or so many organizations need new talent, and they're always, and the original way was looking for talent outside. But it's going to have to be more turning to inside and developing our people from inside to up. And then when only we absolutely need to, developing this talent supply to bring in new talent, new blood, to build up within the organization.
Yeah. I think the other thing I really appreciate is your focus on soft skills and the mentoring that takes place as part of the process as well. So it's a very well-rounded program. So we're going to talk a bit more about this tomorrow on our member section. But we're excited where this is going. But this is really a framework to partner with all of you. We'd like to understand what your needs are, whether that's your own internal needs, clients, what have you. We're working on some surveys. We're doing some different things there to help facilitate that. And it may not be you here in the room, and it may be somebody in our HR or whatever it might be, but that's where we look to partner and figure out how we can help. So, Ashley, Bentley, appreciate you joining me here on stage. And we're trying to get ahead of the curve here a little bit. If we're going to grow to that 100 billion number that we're all shooting for, we're going to need some help. And so whether that's inside or outside, let's go find some more good people.
Excited to work together.
All right. Thank you so much. Let's see. All right. So a couple of notes before we head off to lunch. So when we finish lunch, we'll be breaking into 3 different tracks. We covered the APIs thoroughly yesterday with the telco side of things. So this afternoon, here in this room, we will have the go-to-market track. Robert has put together some amazing panels, some inside information on really interesting go-to-market strategies. And so I think any of those that are in kind of the marketing sales side of things should definitely plan to be there. We've got conversion and innovation. So we've got a number of different angles of what's happening new out there, how we're seeing UCaaS, CCaaS, CPaaS, kind of in that convergent side. And so that will be downstairs. And then we have AI and data with a real focus on that segment of the market. So if you think about our different keynotes this morning, each of those kind of touched on each of these elements. And now we'll spend the afternoon really digging into those in a more intimate setting where you all can ask questions and be a part of that conversation. You'll see this information, we'll have them on the screens downstairs, so you can, because it's probably difficult to see that, but those are the different tracks that will actually be out there. You can see that from your QR code or on the screens downstairs. And then, I guess one last note, what we'll do is we'll meet back in this room at 5 p.m. Anybody knows what happens at 5 p.m.? The showcase. That's right. We're going to put a fence up here. We're going to lock them all in here, and they're going to fight to the death. No. So we're super excited. At 5 p.m., we will have our annual CPaaS Showcase Challenge. Today, we've got Cinch and Vonage, Radisys, and Deutsche Telekom that'll be going head-to-head, showing off their coolest stuff live. These are live demos. And we'll have judges. So think of American Idol for CPaaS. That's what we're doing this afternoon. So let's break for lunch. We've held you here long enough. And we'll meet back in this room at 5 o'clock after you've dug into these deeper conversations. Everybody a hand that participated this morning.